Hey guys, this is Allison from Creations. How are you? It's 3 a.m. I can't get to sleep. It is the first day of summer, by the way, so happy summer. Today I'm going to read The Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky. It's a very more flowing and easier to project, although there will be things that I cannot project, I promise you. But this is a easier flow. Like I said in the last video, that one was rough. Before I start, please like the video. Doesn't do any harm to you. It's free. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and please share if you would like to spread the knowledge. And what do I mean by knowledge? It's plucking the truth out of all the books, because many of these books stem and derive from thought of dogma, from thought of esoteric and Gnostic themes, so to say. And you know, there's always truth to be had, and there's always morals and lessons and things to pull from books. If you believe everything you read and don't cross-check with other things, not kosher. Always cross-reference anything that you read with other knowledge. And that's what I'm trying to do, is put the knowledge together. If you get anything from my work, a light bulb moment, a connect the dot, a mic drop, a new book to read, and anything that advances your knowledge, and you have the means to do so, if you could support my work, I would very highly appreciate it. I am attempting several different avenues so that I could keep my internet, the lights, the electric, my phone, all of it on, but it might be turned off. We'll see what happens. But it's what happens when you live in tyranny and communism. I'm trying to get out, by the way. So this is Cosmic Evolution in 7 stanzas translated from the Book of Dizan. Stanza 1. The eternal parent, wrapped in her ever-invisible robes, had slumbered once again for 7 eternities. Time was not, for it lay asleep in the infinite bosom of duration. Whoever wrote this or translated it wrote the wrong numbers. Universal mind was not, for there were no ahai to contain it. The 7 ways to bliss were not. The great causes of misery were not, for there was no one to produce or get ensnared by them. Darkness alone filled the boundless all, for father, mother, and son were once more one, and the son had not awakened yet for the new wheel and his pilgrimage thereon. The 7 sublime lords and the 7 truths have ceased to be, and the universe, the son of necessity, was immersed in paranishparana. See what I'm talking about? to be outbreathed by that which is not, which is and yet is not was. The causes of existence had been done away with. The visible that was and the invisible that is rested in eternal non-being, the one being. Alone, the one form of existence stretched boundless, infinite, causeless, in dreamless sleep. Life pulsated, unconscious, in universe space, throughout that all presence which is sensed by the opened eye of the Dhamma. But where was the Dhamma when the alaya of the universe was in Paramartha, and the great wheel was Anputaka? Again, guys, when it comes to the Indian gods and goddesses of Buddhism and Brahmanism and all those Vedic and all those fun texts, I cannot project half of those words, pronounce them properly, and I don't think too many people that speak English can do it absolutely in proper form. So I do apologize. It's no disrespect. Stanza 2. Where were the builders, the luminous sons of Manvantaric dawn, and the unknown darkness, and their Ahai Puranish Apana, the producers of form from no form, the root of the world, the Dharmaratri and the Sabharavat, rested in the bliss of non-being. Where was the silence? Where the ears to sense it? No, there was neither silence nor sound, not save ceaseless, eternal breath, which knows itself not. The hour had not yet strike. The ray had not yet flashed into the germ. The Matparadma had not yet swollen. Her heart had not yet opened for the one ray to enter, thence to fall, as 3 into 4 into the lap of Maya. The 7 sons were not yet born from the web of light. Darkness alone was father, mother, and Sabahaivat. And Sabahaivat was in darkness. There too are the germ, and the germ is one. The universe was still concealed in the divine thought and the divine bosom. Yeah, see, I told you, I cannot pronounce those words. Stanza 3. The last vibration of the 7th eternity thrills through infinitude. The mother swells, expanding from within, without, like the bud of the lotus. The vibration sweeps along, touching with its swift wing the whole universe and the germ that dwelleth in darkness, the darkness that breathes over the slumbering waters of life. Darkness radiates light, and light drops one solitary ray into the mother deep. The ray shoots through the virgin egg, and the ray causes the eternal egg to thrill, and the drop non-eternal germ, which condenses into the world egg. Then the 3 fall into the 4. The radiant essence becomes 7 inside, 7 outside. The luminous egg, which in itself is there, curdles and spreads in milk-white curds throughout the depths of mother, the root that grows in the depths of the ocean of life. The root remains, the light remains, the curds remain, and still Ohiho is one. The root of life was in every drop of the ocean of immortality, and the ocean was radiant light. which was fire and heat and motion. Darkness vanished and was no more. It disappeared in its own essence. The body of fire and water, or father and mother. Behold, O Leno, the radiant child of the two, the unparalleled refulgent glory. Bright space sun of dark space, which emerged from the depths of the great dark waters. It is Ohi-Ho, the younger. He shines forth as the sun. He is the blazing divine dragon of wisdom. The one is four, and the four takes to itself there. And the union produces the Sapta, in whom are the seven which become the Tredasa, or the hosts and the multitudes. Behold him lifting the veil and unfurling it from west to east. He shuts out the above and leaves the below to be seen as a great illusion. He marks the places for the shining ones and turns the upper into the shoreless sea of fire, and the one manifested into the great waters. Where was the germ and where was now darkness? Where is the spirit of the flame that burned in thy lamp, O Leno? The germ, that is, and that is light, the white brilliant sun of the dark hidden Father. Light is cold flame, and flame is fire, and fire produces heat, which yields water, the water of life in the great mother. Father, mother spin a web whose upper end is fastened to spirit, the light of the one darkness, and the lower one to its shadowy end, matter. In this web is a universe spun out of the two substances made in one, which is Sabyavat. It expands when the breath of fire is upon it. It contracts when the breath of the mother touches it. Then the sons disassociate and scatter to return into their mother's bosom at the end of the great day and become one with her. When it is cooling, it becomes radiant, and the sons expand and contract through their own selves and hearts. They embrace infinitude. Then Sav Abavat sends Fohat to harden the atoms. Each is a part of the web, reflecting the self-existent Lord. Like a mirror, each becomes in turn a world. Stanza 4. Listen, ye sons of the earth, to your instructors, the sons of the fire. Learn there is neither first nor last, for all is one. Number issued from no number. Learn what we who descend from the primordial seven, we who are born from the primordial fire, the flame, have learnt from our fathers, from the Euphengi. Sorry guys, I can't project that word. Of light, the ray of the ever darkness, spun in space, the reawakened energies, the one from the egg, the 6, and the 5. Then the 3, the 1, the 4, the 1, the 5, the twice 7, the sum total. And these are the essence, the flames, the elements, the builders, the numbers, the aura, the rupa, and the force of divine man, the sum total. And from the divine man emanated the forms, the sparks, the sacred animals, and the messengers of the sacred fathers within the holy four. This was the army of the voice, the divine mother of the seven. The sparks of the seven are subject to, and the servants of, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh of the seventh. And these sparks are called spheres, triangles, cubes, lines, and modeler. For this stands the eternal Nidana, the Ohio, which is darkness, the boundless, or the no number, Adi Nandana, Savivat. The Adi Sanat, the number, for he is one. The voice of the Lord, Sabha Vahat, the number, for he who is one. And 9, the formless square. And these 3 enclosed within the circle are the sacred 4. And the 10 are the Arupa universe. Then come the suns, the 7 fighters, the 1, the 8 left out, and his breath, which is the light maker. Then the second 7, who are the Lipka, produced by the 3. The rejected sun is 1. The sons are countless. Stanza 5. The primordial 7, the first 7 breaths of the dragon of wisdom, produce in their turn from the holy circumgurating breaths, the fiery whirlwind. I don't know what that word is. Sorry, guys. They make of him the messenger of their will. The Daizu becomes Fohat, the swift son of the divine sons, whose sons are the Livka, run circular errands. Fohat is the steed, and the thought is the rider. He passes like lightning through the fiery clouds, takes 3 and 5 and 7 strides through the 7 regions above and the 7 below. He lifts his voice and calls the innumerable sparks and joins them. He is their guiding spirit and leader. When he commences work, he separates the sparks of the lower kingdom that float and thrill with joy in their radiant dwellings, and forms therewith the germs of wheels. He places them in the 6 directions of space, and 1 in the middle, the central wheel. Fohat traces spiral lines to unite the 6 to the 7th, the crown. An army of the sons of light stands at each angle, and the Livka in the middle wheel. They say this is good. The first divine world is ready. The first is now the second. Then the divine Arupa reflects itself in a Shaya Loka, the first garment of the Anu Parkava. Fohat takes 5 strides and builds a winged wheel at each corner of the square for the 4 holy ones and their armies. The Lipka circumscribe the triangle, the first one, the cube, the second one, and the pentacle within the egg. It is the ring called Pass Not, for those who descend and ascend, also for those who during the Kalpa are processing towards the great day. Be with us. Thus were formed the Rupa and the Arupa. From 1 light, 7 lights. From each of the 7, 7 times 7 lights. The wheels watch the ring. Stanza 6. By the power of the Mother of Mercy and Knowledge, Kuan Yin, the triple of Kuan Sha Yin, residing in Kuan Yin Tin, Fohat, the breath of their progeny, the son of the sons, having called forth from the lower abyss the elusive form of Sayin Tinshang and the 7 elements. The swift and the radiant one produces the 7 Laya centuries, against which none will prevail to the great day. Be with us. and seats the universe on these eternal foundations surrounding Tizin Tichan with the elemental germs. Of the 7 first, 1 manifested, 6 concealed, 2 manifested, 5 concealed, 3 manifested, 4 concealed, 4 produced, 3 hidden, and 4 and 1 Tizan revealed, 2 and 1/2 concealed, 6 to be manifested, 1 laid aside. Lastly, 7 small wheels revolving, 1 giving birth to the other. He builds them in the likeness of older wheels, placing them on the imperishable centers. How does Fohat build them? He collects fury dust. He makes balls of fire, runs through them and round them, infusing life thereinto, then sets them into motion, some one way, some the other way. They are cold, he makes them hot. They are dry, he makes them moist. They shine, he fans and cools them. Thus acts Fohat from one twilight to the other during 7 eternities. At the 4th, the sons are told to create their images. 1/3 refuses to obey. The curse is pronounced. They will be born on the 4th, suffer and cause suffering. This is the first war. The older wheels rotated downwards and upwards. The mother spawn filled the hole. There were battles fought between the creator and the destroyer. The battles fought for space, the seed appearing and reappearing continuously. Make thy calculations, Lano, if thou wouldest learn the correct age of thy small wheel. Its 4th spoke is our mother. Reach the 4th fruit of the 4th path of knowledge that leads to nirvana, and thou shalt comprehend, and for thou shalt see. Stanza 7. Behold the beginning of sentient, formless life. First the divine, the one from the mother spirit, then the spiritual, the 3 from the one, the 4 from the one, and the 5 from which the 3, the 5 and the 7. These are the threefold, the fourfold downward, and the mind-born sons of the first Lord, the shining 7. It is they who are thou, me, him, O, Lano, they who watch over thee and thy mother earth. The one ray multiplies the smaller rays. Life precedes form, and life survives the last atom of form. Through the countless rays proceeds the life ray, the one like a thread through many jewels. When the one becomes 2, the threefold appears, and there are 1, and it is our threads, O Lano, the heart of the man plant called Septisarma. It is the root that never dies, the 3-tongued flame of the 4 wicks. The wicks are the sparks that draw from the 3-tongued flame shot out by the 7. Their flame, the beams and sparks of one moon reflected in the running waves of all rivers of earth. The spark hangs from the flame by the finest thread of Fohat. It journeys through the 7 worlds of Maya. It stops in the first and is a metal and stone. It passes into the second, and behold, a plant. The plant whirls through 7 changes and becomes a sacred animal. From the combined attributes of these, Manu, the thinker's is form. Who forms him? The 7 lives and the 1 life. Who completes him? The 5-fold lie. And who perfects the last body? Fish, sin, and soma. From the firstborn, the thread between the silent watcher and his shadow becomes more strong and radiant with every change. The morning sunlight has changed into noonday glory. This is thy present wheel, said the flame to the spark. Thou art myself, my image and my shadow. I have clothed myself in thee, and thou art my Vahan. the day. Be with us, when thou shalt re-become myself and others, thyself and me. Then the builder, having donned their first clothing, descend on radiant earth and reign over men, who are themselves. Thus ends this portion of the archaic narrative, dark, confused, almost incomprehensible. An attempt will now be made to throw light into the darkness, to make sense out of these apparent nonsense. I don't make this up. I don't make it up. Commentaries on the 7 stanzas and their terms, according to their numeration in stanzas and slokas. Stanza 1. The eternal parent, space, wrapped in her ever invisible robes, has slumbered once again for 7 eternities. The parent space is the eternal, ever-present cause of all the incomprehensible deity, whose invisible robes are the mystic root of all matter and of the universe. Space is the one eternal thing that can most easily imagine immovable in its abstraction and uninfluenced by either the presence or absence in it of an objective universe. It is without dimension in every sense and self-existent. Spirit is the first differentiation from that, the causeless cause of both spirit and matter. It is taught in the Stoic catechism, neither limitless void nor conditioned fullness, but both. It was and ever will be. Thus the robes stand for the nominum of undifferentiated cosmic matter. It is not matter as we know it, but the spiritual essence of matter, and is co-eternal and even one with space in its abstract sense. Root nature is also the source of the subtle, invisible properties in the visible matter. It is the soul, so to say, of the one infinite spirit. The Hindus call it Mula Prakriti, and say that it is primordial substance, which is the basis of the upadha, or vehicle of every phenomenon, whether physical, mental, or psychic. It is the source from which akasha radiates. By the 7 eternities, aeons or periods are meant. The word eternity, as understood in Christian theology, has no meaning to the Asiatic ear, except in the application to the one existence, nor is termed serendipity, the eternal, only in futurity, anything better than a misnomer. Such words do not and cannot exist in philosophical metaphysics, and were unknown to the advent of ecclesiastical Christianity. The 7 eternities meant are the 7 periods, or a period answering in the duration to the 7 periods of a Manavarata, and extending throughout Mahakalapa, or the Great Age, 100 years of Brahma, making a total of, holy shit. Okay, this is a huge number. $311.40 trillion of years, each year of Brahma being composed of 360 days, and of the same number of nights of Brahma, reckoning from the Chaldraya, or lunar year, and of the day of the Brahma, consisting of 4,320,000 of mortal years. These eternities belong to the most secret calculations, in which, in order to arrive at the true total, every figure must be 7 to the power of x, x varying according to the nature of the cycle in the subjective or real world, and every figure or number relating to or representing all the different cycles from the greatest to the smallest in the objective unreal world, must necessarily be multiples of 7. The key to this cannot be given, for herein lies the mystery of the Stoic calculations, and for purposes of ordinary calculation, it has no sense. The number 7 says that Kabbalah is the great number of the divine mysteries. Number 10 is that of the all human knowledge. Pythagorean decade 1000 is the number 10 to the third power, and therefore number 7000 is also symbolical. In the Secret Doctrine, the figure and number 4 are the male symbol only on the highest plane of abstraction. On the plane of matter, the 3 is the masculine and the 4 the feminine. The upright and the horizontal in the 4th stage of symbolism, when the symbols become the glyphs of the generative powers on the physical plane. Time was not, for it lay asleep in the infinite bosom of duration. Time is only an illusion produced by the succession of our states of consciousness as we travel through eternal duration, and it does not exist where no consciousness exists in which the illusion can be produced, but lies asleep. The present is only a mathematical line which divides that part of eternal duration which we call the future from that part which we call the past. Nothing on earth has real duration, for nothing remains without change, or the same for the billionth part of a second. And the sensation we have of the actuality of the division of nothing remains without change, or the same for the billionth part of a second. And the sensation we have of the actuality of division of time, known as the present, comes from the blurring of the momentary glimpse or succession of glimpses of things that our senses gives us. As those things pass from the region of ideals, which we call the future, to the region of memories that we name the past. In the same way, we experience the sensation of duration in the case of the instantaneous electric spark by reason of the blur and continuing impression on the retina. The real person or thing does not consist solely of what is seen at any particular moment, but is composed of the sum of all its various and changing conditions, from the appearance in the material form to its disappearance from the earth. It is these sum totals that exist from eternity in the future and pass by degrees through matter. To exist for eternity in the past, no one could say that a bar of metal dropped into the sea came into existence as it left the air and ceased to exist as it entered the water, and that bar itself consisted only of the cross-section thereof, which at any given moment coincided with the mathematical plane that separates and at the same time joins the atmosphere and the ocean. Even so of persons and things, which dropping out of the to be into the has been, out the future into the past, present momentarily, to our senses cross-section, as it were, of their total selves, as they pass through time and space as matter on their way from one eternity to another, and these two constitute the duration in which alone anything has true existence, were our senses but able to cognize it there. Universal mind was not, for there were no high celestial beings to contain, hence to manifest it. Mind is a name given to the sum of the states of consciousness, grouped under thought, will, and feeling. During deep sleep, ideation ceases on the physical plane and memory is in abeyance. Thus, for the time being, mind is not, because the organ through which the ego manifests ideation and memory on the material plane has temporarily ceased to function. A noumenon can become the phenomenon on any plane of existence only by manifesting on the plane through an appropriate basis or vehicle, and during the long night of the rest called Prailaya, when all the existence are dissolved, the universal mind remains as a permanent possibility of mental action, or as the abstract absolute thought of which mind is the concrete relative manifestation. The Ahai, the Dayan Chohans, are the collective hosts of spiritual beings, the angelic hosts of Christianity, the Elohim and messengers of the Jews, who are the vehicle for the manifestation of divine or universal thought and will. They are the intelligent forces that give to and enact in her nature laws, while themselves acting according to laws imposed upon them in similar manner, but still have powers, but they are not the personifications of the powers of nature, as erroneously thought. The hierarchy of spiritual beings through which the universal mind comes into action is like an army, a host, truly by means of which fighting power of a nation manifests itself, and which is composed of an army, corps, division, brigades, regimes, and so forth, each with its separate individuality of life and its limited freedom of action and limited responsibilities, each contained in a larger individuality to which its own interests are subservient, and each containing lesser individualized in itself. The seventh ways to bliss. Moksha or nirvana were not. The great causes of misery were not, for there was no one to produce and ensnare by them. There are seven paths or ways to the bliss of non-existence, which is absolute being, existence, and consciousness. They were not because the universe was so far empty and existed only in the divine thought, for it is. The 12 nidanas, or causes of being, each is the effect of its antecedent cause and of a cause in its turn to a successor, to the sum total of the nidanas, being based on the four truths, a doctrine especially characteristic of the Hinayan system. I don't think I'm saying that right. They belong to the theory of the stream of concatenated law, which produces merit and demerit and finally brings karma into full sway. It is based upon the great truth that reincarnation is to be dreaded, as existence in this world only entails upon man suffering, misery, and pain, death itself being unable to deliver man from it, since death is merely the door through which he passes to another life on earth after a little rest on its threshold. The Vachen, the Hinayana system, a school of the little vehicle, is of very ancient growth, while the Mahayana is of a later period, having originated after the death of Buddha. Yet the tenets of the later are as old as the hills that have contained such schools for time immemorial, and the Hinayana and Mahayana schools, the later that of the great vehicle, both teach the same doctrine in reality. Yana, or vehicle in Sanskrit, Vahan, is a mystic expression. Both vehicles inoculating the man may escape the suffering of rebirths and even the false bliss of Devanchan by obtaining wisdom and knowledge, which alone can dispel the fruits of illusion and ignorance. Maya, or illusion, is an element which enters into all finite things. For everything that exists has only a relative, not an absolute reality, since the appearance which the hidden noumenon assumes for any observer dependent on his power of cognition. To the untrained eye, the savage, a painting is at first an unmeaning confusion of streaks and dabs of color, while an educated eye sees instantly a face or a landscape. Nothing is permanent except the one hidden absolute existence, which contains in itself the noumena of all realities, the existences belonging to every plane of being. up to the highest Dayan Chohans are in degree of the nature of shadows cast by a magic lantern on a colorless screen, but all things are relatively real, for the cognizer is also a reflection, and the things cognized are therefore as real to him as himself. Whatever reality things possess must be looked for in them before after they pass like a flash through the material world. But we cannot cognize any such existence directly so long as we have sense instruments, which bring only material existence into the field of our consciousness. Whatever plane our consciousness may be acting in both, we and the things belonging to that plane are, for the time being, our only realities. As we rise in the scale of development, we perceive that during the stages through which we have passed, we mistook shadows for realities, and the upward progress of ego is a series of progressive awakenings, each advancing, bringing with it the idea that now at last we have reached reality, but only when we shall have reached the absolute consciousness and blended our own with it, shall we be free from the delusions produced by Maya. That is deep. I mean, all of it's very, very, like, pretty on it. That's deep. And that's pretty much, like, from my upstairs, accurate. Darkness alone filled the boundless all, for the Father, Mother, and Son were once more one, and the Son had not awakened yet for the new wheel, and his pilgrimage thereon. Darkness is the Father, Mother, light their Son, says an old Eastern proverb. Light is inconceivable except as coming from source, which is the cause of it. And as in the instance of primordial light, the source is unknown, though as strongly demanded by reason and logic, therefore it is called darkness by us from an intellectual point of view. As to borrowed or secondary light, whatever is source, it can be but of a temporary Mayavic character. Darkness then is the eternal matrix in which the source of light appears and disappears. Nothing is added to darkness to make of it light, or to light to make its darkness on this plane. They are interchangeable, and scientifically light is but a mode of darkness and vice versa. Yet both are phenomena of the same noumenon, which is absolute darkness to the scientific mind, and but a gray twilight to the perception of an average mystic. Though to that of the spiritual eye of an initiate, it is absolute light. How far we discern the light that shines in darkness depends upon our powers of vision. What is light to us is darkness. To certain insects and the eye of the clairvoyant sees illumination where the normal eye perceives only blackness. When the whole universe was plunged into sleep, had it returned to its one primordial element, there was neither center of luminosity nor eye to perceive light, and darkness necessarily filled the boundless all. The mother-father are the male and female principles in brute nature, two opposite poles that manifest in all things at every plane of cosmos, or spirit and substance. In a less allegorical aspect, the resultant of which is the universe or the sun, they are once more one. When in the night of Brahma, during Pralyaya, all in the objective universe has returned to its one primordial and eternal cause, to reappear at the following dawn as it does periodically. Karana, eternal cause, was alone. To put it more plainly, Karana is alone during the night of Brahma. To the previous objective universe has dissolved into its one primordial and eternal cause, and is, so to say, held in solution in space. to differentiate again and crystallize out anew at the following manvaronic dawn, which is the commencement of a new day, or newly activity of Brahma, the symbol of the universe. In a Stoic parlance, Brahma is Father, Mother, Son, or spirit, soul, and body at once, each personage being symbolical of an attribute, and each attribute is quality, being a graduated efflux of divine breath in its cyclical differentiation, involuntary and evolutionary. In the cosmophysical sense, it is the universe, the planetary chain, and the earth. In the purely spiritual, the unknown deity, planetary spirit, and man, the son of the two, the creature of spirit and matter, and of manifestation of them in his periodical appearances on earth during the wheels, or the manvatras. The seven sublime lords and the seven truths had ceased to be, and the universe, the son of necessity, was immersed in para-prashamana. Sorry, guys, totally butchered that. To be outbreathed by which is, and yet is not was. The seven sublime lords are the seven creative spirits, the Dayan Chohans, who correspond to the Hebrew Elohim. It is thus the same hierarchy of archangels to which Saint Michael, Saint Gabriel, and others belong to in the Christian theology. Only while Saint Michael, for instance, is allowed in dogmatic Latin theology to watch over all the promontories and gulfs in the esoteric system, the Dianins, which successively over one of the rounds and the great root races of our planetary chain, they are moreover said to send their boat. Oh no. Boat is not getting that out, guys. The human correspondence of the Dhyani Buddhas during every round and race. Out of the seven truths and revelations, or rather revealed secrets, 4 only have been handed to us, as we are still in the 4th round, and the world also has only had 4 Buddhas so far. This is a very complicated question and will receive more ample treatment later on. So far, there are only 4 truths and 4 Vedas, says the Hindus and the Buddhists. For a similar reason, Irenaeus insisted on the necessity of 4 Gospels. But as every new root race at the head of a round must have its revelation and revelers, the next round will bring the 5th, the following the 6th, and so on. Parananishabana is the absolute perfection in which all existences attain at the close of a great period of activity, or Maha Manvarata, and in which the rest during the succeeding period of repose. In Tibetan, it is called Yang Grub. Up to the day of the Yoga Sharaya school, the true nature of Paranirvana was taught publicly, but since then it has become entirely esoteric. Hence so many contradictory interpretations of it. It is only a true idealist who can understand it. Everything has to be viewed as ideal, with the exception of Paranirvana, by him who comprehend that state, acquired a knowledge of how non-ego voidness and darkness are 3 in 1 and alone self-existent and perfect. It is absolute, however, only in relative sense, for it must give room to still further absolute perfection according to a high standard of excellence in the following period of activity, just as a perfect flower must cease to be a perfect flower and die in order to grow into a perfect fruit, if a somewhat Irish mode of expression may be permitted. The secret doctrine teaches the progressive development of everything, worlds as well as atoms, and this stupendous development has neither conceivable beginning or imaginable end. Our universe is only one of an infinite number of universes, all of them sons of necessity, because links in the great cosmos chain of universes, each one standing in the relation of an effect as regards in predecessor, and being a cause regards its successor. The appearances and disappearances of the universe are pictured as an outbreathing and inbreathing of the great breath, which is eternal and which, being motion, is one of the three aspects of the absolute, abstract space and duration being the other two. When the great breath is projected, it is called the divine breath and is regarded as the breathing of the unknowable deity, the one existence which breathes out a thought, as it were, which becomes the cosmos. So also it is when the divine breath is inspired again, the universe disappears into the bosom of the Great Mother, who sleeps wrapped in her invisible robes. By that which is and yet is not, is meant the great breath itself, which we can only speak of as absolute existence, but cannot picture to our imagination as any form of existence that we can distinguish from non-existence. The three periods, the present, the past, and the future, are in the esoteric philosophy a compound time, for three are composite number only in relation to the phenomenal plane, but in the realm of pneuma have an abstract validity. As said in scriptures, the past time is the present time, as also the future, which though it has not come into existence, still is, according to the precept in the Prasanga Madhyamayic teaching, whose dogmas have been known ever since it broke away from the purely esoteric schools. Our ideas, in short, on duration and time are all derived from our sensation according to the laws of association, inextricably bound up with the relativity of human knowledge. They nevertheless can have no existence except in the experience of the individual ego, and perish when its evolutionary march disciples the Maya of phenomenal existence. What is time, for instance, but the panoramic succession of our states of consciousness? In the words of a master, I feel irritated at having to use these three clumsy words, past, present, future, miserable concepts of objective phases of subjective whole. They are about as ill-apted for purpose as an axe for fine carving. One has to acquire paramethra, lest one should become too easy to pray to. Samvatri is a philosophical axiom. Whoa. The causes of existence had been done away with. The visible that was and the invisible that is rested in eternal non-being and one being. The causes of existence mean not only the physical causes known to science, but the metaphysical causes, the chief of which is the desire to exist, an outcome of nidana and maya. The desire for a sentient life shows itself in everything, from an atom to a sun, and a reflection of the divine thought propelled into objective existence, into a law that the universe should exist. According to esoteric teaching, the real cause of that supposed desire and of all existence remains forever hidden, and its first emanations are the most complete abstractions mind can conceive. These abstractions must of necessity be postulated as the cause of the material universe, which prevents itself to senses and intellect, and they underlie the secondary and subordinate powers of nature, which anthropomorphized have been worshipped as God and gods by the common herd of every age. It is impossible to conceive anything without cause. The attempt to do so makes the mind a blank. This is virtually the condition to which the mind must come at last when we try to trace back the chain of causes and effects. But both science and religion jump to the condition of blankness much more quickly than it is necessary, for they ignore the metaphysical abstractions, which are the only conceivable cause of physical concretions. These abstractions become more and more concrete as they approach our plane of existence, until finally the phenomenalized is the form of material universe by a process of conversion of metaphysics into physics, analogous to that by which stem can be condensed into water and the water frozen into ice. The idea of eternal non-being, which is the one being, will appear a paradox to anyone who does not remember that we limit our ideas of being to a present consciousness of existence, making it a specific instead of a generic term. An unborn infant could think in our acception of that term would necessarily limit its conception of being in a similar manner to the intrauterine life, which alone it knows, and were it to endeavor to express it to its consciousness, the ideal life after birth, death to it, it would, in the absence of data to go upon and of faculties to comprehend such data, probably express that the life as non-being, which is real being. In our case, the one being is the nominum of all noumena, which we know must underlie phenomena and give them whatever shadow of reality they possess, but which we have not the senses or the intellect to cognize at present. The impalpable atoms of gold scattered through the substance of a ton of a various quartz may be imperceptible to the naked eye of the miner, yet he knows that they are not only present, sorry guys, that's a little tongue twister for me. They alone give his quartz any appreciable value, and the relation of the gold to the quartz may faintly shadow forth that of the nomenon to the phenomenon. But the miner knows that the gold will look like when extracted from the quartz, whereas the common mortal can form no conception of reality of things separated from the Maya, which veils them and in which they are hidden. Alone, the intricate rich, with the lore acquired by numerous generations of the predecessors, directs the eye of Dagma toward the essence of things in which no Maya can have influence. It is here that the teachings of esoteric philosophy in relation to Nidanas, the four truths, become of the greatest importance, but they are secret. Alone, the one form of existence, stretched, boundless, infinite, causeless, in dreamless sleep, and life pulsated unconscious in universal space throughout the all presence, which it sense by an open eye, or the Dhamma. The tendency of modern thought is to recur to the archaic idea of a homogeneous basis for apparently widely different things. Heterogeneity developed from homogeny. Biologists are now searching for their homogeneous protoplasm and chemicals for their prototype, while science is looking for the force of which electricity, magnetism, heat, and so forth are the differentiations. The secret doctrine carries this idea into the region of metaphysics and postulates a one form of existence as the basis and source of all things. For perhaps the phrase, the one form of existence, is not altogether correct. The Sanskrit word is I can't. Sorry, I'm not even attempting that. It's not going to come out correct. The place, or rather plane, whence emerges the origination, and in which is the resolution of all things, says to the commentator, it is not the mother of the world, or the translated by Wilson, For Yardani is scarcely so much the mother of the world or the womb of the world as the material cause of the universe. The Puranic commentators explained in the Qurana cause, but the esoteric philosophy by the ideal spirit of that cause. It is in the secondary stage, the Savat of the Buddhist philosopher, the eternal cause and effect, omnipresent yet abstract, the self-existent plastic essence, and the root of all things, viewed in the same dual light as in the Vedantin views his Parabrahma and Molakaprakti, the one under two aspects. Sorry, guys, with these words. It seems indeed extraordinary to find great scholars speculating on the possibility of the Vedanta and the Uttara Mimsana, especially having been evoked by the teachings of the Buddhists, whereas it is, on the contrary, Buddhism that was evoked and entirely upreared on the tenets of the secret doctrine, of which a partial sketch is here attempted, and on which also Upanishads are made to rest. The above according to the teachings of Sri Sankaracharya is undeniable. Dreamless sleep is one of the 7 states of consciousness known in Oriental esotericism. In each of these states, a different portion of the mind comes into action, or as a Vedantin would express it, the individual is conscious in a different plane of his being. The term dreamless sleep in the case is applied allegorically to the universe as expressed, a condition somewhat analogous to the state of consciousness in man, which is not being remembered in a waking state, seems a blank, just as the sleep of the mesmerized subject seems to him as an unconscious blank when he returns to the normal condition, although he has been talking and acting as a conscious individual would. Sorry, guys, for the words. I can't project those out. But where was the Dhamma when the alaya of the universe was in Paramartha and the great wheel of Anpudaka? I am so sorry I am butchering this. It's really embarrassing, actually. Here we have before us the subject of centuries and scholastic disputations. The two terms, alaya and paramartha, have been the causes of dividing schools and splitting the truth into more different aspects than any other mystic terms. Alaya is literally the soul of the world, or an anima mundi, the oversoul of Emerson, and according to the esoteric teaching, it changes periodically its nature. Alaya, though eternal and changeless in its inner essence on the planes, which are unreachable by either man or cosmic gods, alters during the active life period with respect to the lower planes, ours included. During that time, not only the Dhyani Buddhas are with alaya in the soul and essence, but even the man strong in the yoga is able to merge with his soul with it. This is not nirvana, but a condition next to it, hence the disagreement. Thus, while the Yogacharyas say that alaya is the personification of the voidness, and yet alaya is the basis of every visible and invisible thing, that though it is eternal and immutable in the essence, it reflects itself in every object of the universe, like the moon is in clear, tranquil water. Other schools dispute the statement. The same for Paramartha. The Yogacharyas interpret the term as that which is also dependent upon other things. And the Madhyamikas say that the Paramartha is limited to Paranimspranaya, or absolute perfection in the exposition of these two truths. Out of four, the former believe and maintain that on this plane, at any rate, there exists only Samvitraya, or relative truth, and the later teach the existence of Paramitra, the absolute truth. No Ahat or Minden. I can't fucking read it. I'm getting really pissed. Mendicants can reach absolute knowledge before he becomes one with paranirvana. Sorry, guys. A lot of this I am not butchering, so I am not even attempting. Esoteric philosophy teaches that everything lives and is conscious, but not that all life and consciousness are similar to those of human or even animal beings. Life we look upon as the one form of existence manifesting of what is called matter, or as in man, what incorrectly separating them we name spirit, soul, and matter. Matter is the vehicle of the manifestation of soul on this plane of existence, and soul is the vehicle on a higher plane for the manifestations of spirit. These are a trinity synthesized by life, which pervades them all. The idea of universal life is one of those ancient conceptions which are returning to the human mind in this century as consequence of its liberation from anthropomorphic theology. Science, it is true, contends itself with tracing or postulating the signs of universal life, and has not yet been bold enough even to whisper anima mundi. The idea of crystalline life, now familiar to science, would have been scattered half a century ago. Botanists are now searching for the nerves of plants, not that they suppose that plants can feel or think as animals do, but because they believe that some structure bearing the same relation functionality to plant life that nerves bear to animal life is necessary to explain vegetable growth and nutrition. It hardly seems possible that science can disguise from itself much longer, by the mere use of terms such as force and energy, the fact that things that have life are living things, whether they be atoms or plants. But what is the belief? The inner esoteric schools, the reader asks, what are the doctrines taught on the subject by the esoteric Buddhists? With them, alaya has a double and even a triple meaning. In the Yogacara system of the comprehensive Mahayana school, alaya is both the universal soul and the self of progress adept. He who is strong in the yoga can introduce at his alaya by means of meditation into the true nature of existence. The alaya has an absolute eternal essence, says Arisanyanga, the rival of Nirjana. In one sense, it is, sorry guys. In one sense, it is pradhana, which is explained in Vishnu Purana as that which is the unself cause, is emphatically called by the most emergent sages padhana. Original base, which is subtle, prakriti, that which is eternal and which is at once, is or comprehends what is and what is not, or as mere process. Parakvarati, however, is an incorrect word, and Alaya would explain it better. For Parakvarati is not the unrecognizable Brahma. It is mistake of those who know nothing of the university of the occult doctrines from the very cradle of the human races, and especially so of those scholars who reject the very idea of the primordial revelation to teach that the omnia mundi, the one life or universal soul, was made known only to the Angazoras or during his age. The philosopher brought the teachings forward simply to oppose the two materialistic conceptions on cosmogony of Democritus, based on his exotic theory of blindly driven atoms, and Anaxagoras of Clemzamin was not its inventor, but only its progenitor, as also with who was Plato. That which he called mundane intelligence, the nous, the principle that, according to his views, is absolutely separated and free from matter and acts of design, was called motion, the one life of Vratima, ages before the year 500 BC in India. Only the Aryan philosophers never endowed the principle which with them is infinite with the finite attribute of thinking. This leads the reader to naturally to the supreme spirit of Hegel and the German transcendentalists, as contrast that it may be useful to point out. The schools of Schelling and Fichte have diverged widely from the primitive, archaic concept of the absolute principle and have mirrored only the aspect of the basic idea of Vedanta. Even the absolute Geist, shadowed forth by von Hartmann in his pessimistic philosophy of the unconscious, while it is perhaps the closest approximation made by the European speculation to the Hindu Advaita doctrines, similarly falls short of the reality. According to Hegel, the unconscious would never have undertaken the vast and laborious task of evolving the universe, except in the hope of obtaining clear self-consciousness. In this connection, it is to the born mind that is designing spirit, which the European pantheists use as an equivalent to para-Brahman as unconscious. They do not attach the expression of spirit, one employed in the absence of a better to symbolize profound mastery, the connotation it usually bears. The absolute consciousness, they tell us, behind phenomena, which is only termed unconscious in the absence of any element of personality, transcends human conception. Man, unable to form the one concept except in terms of empirical phenomena, is powerless from the very constitution of his being to raise the veil that shrouds the majesty of the absolute. Only the liberated spirit is able to faintly realize the nature of the source whence it sprung and whither it must eventually return. As the highest Dayan Choban, however, can but bow to ignorance before the awful mystery of absolute being. And since even in the culmination of conscious existence, the merging of the individual in the universal consciousness, to use a phrase of Fichte, the finite cannot conceive the infinite, nor can it apply to it the own standard of mental experiences. How can it be said that the unconscious and the absolute can have even an instinctive impulse or hope of obtaining clear self-consciousness? A Vedantin would never admit the Hegelian idea, and the occultists would say that it applies perfectly to the awakened Mahat. the universal mind already projected into the phenomenal world as the first aspect of the changeless absolute, but never to the latter. Spirit and matter of Purusha and Prarati are but the two primeval aspects of the one and secondless, we are taught. The matter moving knows, the animating soul eminent in every atom, manifested in man, latent in the stone, has different degrees of power. And the pantheistic idea of a general spirit soul pervading all nature is the oldest of all the philosophical notions. Nor was the Arceus a discovery of Heraclius, nor of his pupil Van Helmont, for it is again the same Arceus or Father Ether, the manifested basis and source of the innumerable phenomena of life localized. The whole series of the numberless speculations of this kind are but variations of this theme, the keynote of which struck the primeval revelation. The term Anupaduka, parentless or without progenitors, is a mystical designation having several meanings in the philosophy. By the name celestial beings, the Dhyan Chohans or the Dhyan Buddhas are generally meant, but as these correspond mystically to the human Buddhas and can't get that word out, known as the Manchi Buddhas, the later are also designated Anapadaka, once that their whole personality is merged in their compound 6th and 7th principles, or Atma Buddha, and that they have become the diamond soul, the full Mahatmas. The concealed Lord, the one merged with the absolute, can have no parent since he is self-existent and one with the universal spirit. The Savat in the highest aspect, the mystery in the hierarchy of the Anpodaka is great in the apex being the universal spirit soul, and the lower rung of the Manchi Buddha, and even every soul endowed man in its Anpaka. So fucking frustrating, guys. I'm sorry. In a latent state. Hence, when speaking of the universe in its formless, eternal, or absolute condition, before it was fashioned by the builders, the expression, the universe was Anhubadaka. I'm not saying that word right, and I'm really sorry, guys. It's so frustrating. Because I want to say it properly. I'm going to leave it there. I hoped that you got something out of that last part. I do apologize. It is very frustrating that I can't project these words properly. Sending each and every one of you love and light, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.